Welcome to the first of our writing webinar series for secondary teachers, The Power of Writing. Our goal is to get students to write as painlessly as possible for both you and them. Students become better writers by writing. The goal of this webinar is to give an overview of why, what it will look like, and how it might work in your classroom, and hopefully dispel some misconceptions. So let's jump into this first webinar with a few reasons that teachers should encourage writing for their students. So why is writing important for secondary students? As students begin to get ready for both college and career, writing will be at the forefront of skills that they will need. The list of reasons that writing is so crucial include the following. Writing is the primary basis upon which your work, your learning, and your intellect will be judged in college, in the workplace, and in the community. Writing expresses who you are as a person. Writing is portable and permanent. It makes your thinking visible. Writing helps you move easily among facts, inferences, and opinions without getting confused and without confusing your reader. Writing promotes your ability to pose worthwhile questions. Writing fosters your ability to explain a complex position to readers and to yourself. Writing helps others give you feedback. Writing helps you refine your ideas when you give other people feedback. Writing requires that you anticipate your readers' needs. Your ability to do so demonstrates your intellectual flexibility and maturity. Writing ideas down preserves them so that you can reflect upon them later. Writing out your ideas permits you to evaluate the adequacy of your argument. Writing stimulates you to extend a line of thought beyond your first impressions or gut responses. Writing helps you understand how truth is established in a given discipline. Writing equips you with the communication and thinking skills you need to participate effectively in democracy. And finally, writing is an essential job skill. So as you can see from our list, writing is important, and students need to develop quality and effective writing skills. So let's turn our attention to some organizing principles of high-quality, effective writing instruction. For today's webinar, we will focus on 6 key principles. The first principle requires sufficient time for systematic writing opportunities both within English language arts classes, where writing instruction and practice traditionally occur, and in all other content area classes. The second principle details the rationale and methods for explicitly teaching the writing process, including the incorporation of student writing strategies for planning, writing first drafts, revising, and editing text across different text genres. This principle includes guidelines and steps for teaching writing strategies, examples of writing strategies, and sample planning sheets that can be used at different stages of the writing process. Principle 2 also provides information about how teachers can provide focused feedback to students and effectively use peer collaboration during the writing process. The third principle for organizing high-quality writing instruction addresses different types of discourse knowledge that will help students write more effectively. Discourse knowledge includes an understanding of text structure, that is, how writing is organized for effective communication in different subjects. For example, writing a science report versus writing a fictional narrative. Discourse knowledge also involves vocabulary, syntax, and other language-based features important in different subjects. Spelling, the effective use of word processing, and other technologies support the development of discourse knowledge. The fourth principle addresses motivation as a key element in writing development by examining strategies to help students view themselves as capable writers and providing authentic writing activities within the overall writing program. The fifth principle incorporates differentiated instruction through a multi-tiered instructional approach. Differentiation consists of increasing the level of instructional explicitness, delivering small group instruction, and increasing the amount of instructional time devoted to writing. And the final organizing principle for high-quality, effective writing instruction includes using writing as a tool to strengthen reading comprehension and to enhance learning across the curriculum. Examples for integrating writing instruction in content and technical areas, particularly at the secondary level, would be provided. Let's look now into each of these 6 principles a little more deeply, specifically in regards to secondary instruction. Principle 1, provide time for students to write. Do your students have time for writing? Highly effective programs require sufficient time for systematic writing opportunities, both within English language arts classes and all other content areas. Writing takes time. Students need to think carefully about their purpose for writing, planning what to say and how to say it. Students need dedicated instructional time to learn the skills and strategies necessary to become effective writers, as well as time to practice. As teachers observe the way students write, they can identify difficulties and assist students with learning and applying. In secondary classrooms, schedules can often be a detriment to allow enough time for writing, as well as meeting other required standards. This is one reason writing at the secondary level should include subject areas beyond English. The second principle of high-quality programs explicitly teaches the writing process. This diagram is a clear example of the recursive nature of the writing process. Too often the process is presented as a linear lockstep process, which really violates the very nature of writing. Reading and writing are reciprocal processes, each developing fluency in the other. You may have noticed in this slide that something has been added to the traditional writing process, the responding piece. Students need feedback. Feedback can be formal or informal, lengthy or brief, but students need this feedback to gain confidence with writing. Many teachers may hesitate to give this feedback in this part of the process because of fear of stifling the writing. But think back to your college days. Would you rather have had a professor give you some constructive feedback before you published or shared your paper? By adding this step in more complex writings, time will actually be saved when you redirect students before they are finished. There is nothing more disconcerting than turning in something you have diligently worked on to find that the target has been missed. There are many methods of teaching writing. Current research shows that by explicitly teaching the writing process, students have shown greater gains and more in-depth knowledge of metacognitive process. Quality programs detail the rationale and methods for explicitly teaching the writing process and also provide information about how teachers can give focused feedback to students and effectively use peer collaboration during the writing process. Quality programs also teach the writing process by using explicit instruction to break the writing process into manageable steps and make the internal invisible self-talk that good writers use more concrete and visible to student learners. Quality programs also address student challenges related to the planning and revising process. It helps those who think writing has to be perfect the first time. Believe that a completed essay consists of 1 or 2 sentences or pages and pages of rambling text. Or for those students who get lost in the writing process and lose track of the purpose and focus of their writing. As you think about the writing process, here are some brief aspects to ponder upon. Each of these we will discuss more in detail in future webinars. But think about them. General writing strategies can be applied across a variety of genres. Explicit instruction is used to teach strategies. Explicit instruction can be applied to the strategies used during each stage of the writing process. Graphic organizers such as organizational charts, think sheets, and prompt cards are used with a writing strategy to make the writing process or a specific stage of the writing process more visible and concrete. Students require instruction that is specifically focused on the planning and revision phases of writing. The third principle for organizing high-quality writing instruction addresses different types of discourse knowledge. Programs should address different types of discourse knowledge that will help students write more effectively. Looking at the chart on the slide, the use of the writing process to create different types of genres and for various purposes allows students to utilize the discourse knowledge productively. Remember, discourse knowledge includes an understanding of text structure, that is, how writing is organized for effective communication in different subject areas, and also involves vocabulary, syntax, and other language-based features important in different subjects. You need to address the foundational skills required to write and communicate effectively, such as handwriting, typing, word processing, and other technologies. Teachers need to work with student challenges related to the development of fluent transcription skills or their spelling. And lastly, teachers need to teach text structure of different genres of writing, specifically the text types of argument, informational, explanatory, and narrative. So look again at the chart on this slide. The use of the writing process between genres and for various purposes allows students to utilize this discourse. The fourth principle addresses motivation as a key element in writing development. Research suggests that motivation is an important component. Quality programs address motivation by examining strategies to help students view themselves as capable writers and providing authentic writing activities within the overall writing program. At the beginning of the school year, most students really want to write. Often they will even self-initiate writing and create their own writing projects. It's not uncommon to see handwritten notes and letters, labels, and narrated artwork and self-made books. Unfortunately, as the year progresses, student motivation to write often decreases or simply disappears. The declining interest in writing may be due to a lack of success in the writing process and the corresponding development of a self-defeating view about personal writing capabilities and/or participation in writing activities that seem meaningless and unrelated to student lives and everyday realities. Some ways teachers can help with this is to create opportunities to enhance self-efficacy, providing authentic writing experiences, and motivate students to become successful writers with a classroom environment that is supportive, pleasant, and enthusiastic about writing. Research indicates that self-efficacy or a student's opinion of their writing and themselves as writers directly affects the amount of effort a student will expend when writing and the quality of their writing performance. Low self-efficacy can also be difficult to change once it becomes an entrenched pattern of interacting and thinking. Fortunately, there are research-based strategies that can be implemented to help students change negative opinions they have of themselves as writers. The following recommendations can be integrated within writing instruction to enhance students' overall self-efficacy and can apply to all students whether or not their self-efficacy about writing is low. Ensure all students, particularly struggling writers and ELs, have opportunities to perform challenging tasks successfully through sufficient scaffolding. Model coping tactics to show students how to respond when encountering both difficulties and successes. Give truthful, realistic, and specific feedback regarding performance. Emphasize that competence is alterable through hard work and effort. And reinforce effort when students are first mastering a task, but recognize that the continued need to reinforce this effort, as opposed to focusing primarily on reinforcing the quality of the content, may be an indication the student's skills are not progressing adequately. Poor writing growth may trigger continued problems with low self-efficacy, despite the best intentions of teachers to praise effort. To address self-efficacy in the long term, it is essential to find ways to help students improve as writers. Motivational issues also arise when students perceive writing tasks as simply just another meaningless thing to do. When a writing assignment lacks any connection to student personal experience and interest, motivation is often lost. Attitudes towards writing tasks do matter. They influence involvement and achievement, foster student motivation, create classroom conditions, and authentic writing tasks that make writing meaningful and interesting. You need to help students see writing as a meaningful activity that has a value or has relevance. Examples might include writing a letter to the police chief about a stop sign that should be installed in front of the school, or writing a persuasive essay attempting to convince others to vote for a ballot referendum. Writing tasks should also involve writing about content in subject area classes. Examples might include asking students to write their impressions about a documentary viewed in a social studies class on Martin Luther King, or to write a report on the results of a scientific experiment. Stress the communicative realm of writing. Writing is much more than a solitary activity in which a student demonstrates what he or she has learned and then is evaluated by the teacher. Instead, writing can be viewed as a social activity in which what one writes is shared with various audiences for various purposes. Students also take on the roles of both readers and writers when they share written work, and the communicative aspect of writing is stressed. Writing may even include the collaborative or co-construction of text. In real-world situations, how often is writing shared that you haven't collaborated on either during or prior to publication? Is your classroom set up to help or hinder student collaboration and co-creation? Is it able to be utilized for different parts of the writing process with ease? Do students have room to collaborate and co-create, as well as space to formulate their own ideas? Most of us would agree that motivation is a huge issue in writing, especially in secondary students. Is the learning environment conducive to increasing learner motivation? Create a classroom environment that is supportive, pleasant, and enthusiastic about writing. Students become enthusiastic about writing when teachers are enthusiastic about it. Research shows that students do adopt teachers' attitudes. Because attitudes about writing are communicated, it's very important that classrooms are supportive and positive about student writing experiences. If writing is demonstrated with hesitation and reluctance during a live explicit instruction model, students will likely pay attention to the reluctance rather than the writing or the writing process that is demonstrated. The fifth principle of high-quality writing instruction incorporates differentiated instruction through a multi-tiered instructional approach. Differentiation consists of increasing the level of instructional explicitness, delivering small group instruction, and increasing the amount of instruction time devoted to writing. This applies to all ELL learners, LD learners, as well as struggling students, and will be discussed in depth in later webinars. And finally, the sixth principle for quality writing instruction is using writing as a tool to strengthen reading comprehension and to enhance learning across the curriculum. Many of you today may be teachers dedicated to teaching English, while others may be teaching different content areas and want more information on how to incorporate writing across your specific content or technical areas. But here are some things to consider. Common language. Does revise or draft mean the same thing to all students? Tiered vocabulary. What does vocabulary instruction look like in other content areas? Aligned appropriate tasks. Are tasks aligned and appropriate for both students and the content area? So I want you to take some time and consider the 6 principles for high quality writing instruction in your classroom. But as we reach the end of this webinar, sometimes the hardest thing about writing is just getting started. Hopefully this webinar has given you an overview of the components of a quality, high-effective writing program and some specific things you can begin to think about as you plan writing instruction in your classroom. The remainder of the webinars in this series will look at some of those components in more depth, as well as provide you with specific strategies to help use them in your classroom. But for now, just get going. Just write.